Hey there, and welcome to Matt's Garage. So this is another installment on my mom's 2006 PT Cruiser build. And I know it's been a while, but I have been working on the car off and on, in between working on daily drivers and getting sidetracked by other projects. And I've probably put about 40 hours into this car since the last video, believe it or not. And you're questioning why it's not painted yet. Well, these door jambs suck up a lot of time, I'm afraid. Originally, I had only planned to bring the outer paint into that line there. And then when we went and bought the paint, I had originally planned on using this Infernal Red for the red on the bottom and then doing the black above the body line. So now we've actually chosen a bit different red, a darker solid color. So I'm going to bring it all the way into the jambs, same with the black, so the jambs will be completely two-toned. The jambs, they're all prepped in 600 now. I actually went over them really quickly with 320 grit, just to feather down the edge on the primer and kind of get the texture off of them. And then I went over that with 600 grit, and then I'm going to take wax and grease remover to the jambs now, just to make sure there's no contaminants in them. And then as a final step, I'll be going over it with the gray Scotch pad again just before paint there. A lot of people would just Scotch pad these to start with, which I have done in the past on other projects, but a lot of times you'll end up a few years down the road with paint lifting in places, because it really takes so much effort with a Scotch pad to get a proper scratch pattern on the paint and actually get it to adhere, whereas with sandpaper you're pretty well guaranteed that it's going to be proper, and also you get a lot nicer job because you're starting with a completely smooth finish. When you Scotch pad it, it doesn't really remove the texture, so when you paint it again, you're just building on that texture and you end up with a really rough texture. I'm just going to be using a little touch-up gun because, as you can see, I've left the doors on. I have stripped off everything I possibly can, like the door catches, the door switch, of course all the door seals, and about the only thing left is just this electrical wire here, which I'm going to show you a nifty way to mask that up so it's not in my way. So I should be able to get a pretty high quality job here, even though I'm leaving the doors on. And then I'll paint it all. See, I don't want to prime or seal the whole jamb. Wherever my edges go, I don't want any gray showing, since the car's already red and over half the jambs are going to be red again. It makes sense to leave this as the base color underneath rather than spraying a primer over it all. Just to give you a little idea, I've added it up and I've used over 40 full sheets of sandpaper just sanding the jambs. Yeah, all hand sand it. So that's where I'm at. I'm probably just going to spend a couple hours with the Scotch pad going over all the jambs now, everywhere where I've gone with 600. It's been a lot of work, but I'm getting really close here. I've got everything completely prepped, and I'm just working on cleanup now. So I've already picked up all the trash off the floor. And now what I'm going to do is hit it with the vacuum. I don't like using a broom. I like to extract the dirt from the environment that I'm in. Because when you're sweeping it, you're really spreading, about 20% of it around and picking up 80%, whereas with the vacuum there, you're getting 99% of the dust. One thing I've done a lot in the past is take a water hose and wash the car with water, soap and water, just regular dish soap, and then you wash the whole bay that it's in, everything. Then you go around with an air gun and you dry everything. You spray all around the windows and dry it and stuff. You mask it up and you spray it. And right before you spray it, you go over it with a tack cloth to get any debris off that may have landed on it while you're masking. But I've done several cars like that with great results, because when you go over it with water and the water gets down into like behind this window and stuff, if there is any dust in there that didn't lift out in your process when you went over it with the air gun, it's going to stay saturated with water for at least 24 hours after you wash the car. And that'll lock that dust down and it won't be coming up into your paint. Unfortunately, I don't have running water in the shop here, so I'm not able to do that. So I'll be doing a solvent clean on it before I paint it. Now there are a few areas where I've gone to bare metal, and so what I'm going to do is go around with my little touch-up gun with some epoxy sealer in there and just touch up any bare metal. Just spot it in. Well, I'm just about done with the cleanup now. I'm just going to start the blowing things off. So I've got all the sheets off the car and everything. You can see I've got everything out of the room now. The toolbox is going to be plasticized, but everything else is all moved out. And I cleaned up my compressor room here, and I put that there. And that table, and then all my tools and stuff that were on the wall are all there. I just put them in the tote lid so they're easy to move around. And then I have this bench in here. This is for mixing paint. So I cleared that all off. And then this is where my air compressors are. Okay, so we're just gonna go around the whole car with an air gun. And basically all we're trying to do is get any loose dust off. But we're also going to go over all the walls. We're going to go through the interior. It's not just the areas we're painting. We want this whole area free of any contaminants that might get into our paint. Right now I've got the doors taped shut because I don't have any stops on the doors. And I don't want them banging around, so that'll be actually the last step, is to open up the doors, blow out the jams, wipe them out, and then I'll start masking from there. Now I'm just going to blow on the wall, even things like my heaters. So it is good to kind of work around the car and then come back to an area, because as you're going around you're stirring up dust and it's resettling back onto the area you've already blown. So it's kind of a vicious circle until you get all the dust out of the area that you're working. I'm just venting the dust out the door here, and that's why I have the space heater on, because it actually pushes it out. I don't know if you'll be able to see that on camera, but there's literally clouds of dust funneling out of this area, just because it's so much hotter in this area than it is out there in the outer shop. You really want to get in around things like this window, because there is a void under there where dust is going to collect. And one nice thing is having a rubber tipped blowgun. I often use one. I'm not right now, but in case you bump it, especially if you're cleaning something that's already painted. Now you can see why I want it to vacuum before I start it blowing. There's so much dust in the air, and that's after I vacuumed every surface in the room. I disconnected the door stops down there, so the doors now just swing freely and very easily. That doesn't really work when I'm painting. I need them to stay in a fixed position. So what I did is just take a little drywall screw and screw it in between the two hinge pieces there. So I'll just run the drywall screw. Just got to be careful that you don't hit the outer panel there, but it's probably going to chew up a little bit right there, but for me, I'm just going to dab a little paint in that after. So there, that door's demobilized there now. Okay guys, well you can, I've got my helmet cam on here, whatever, my headband cam. Just trying that view out for you guys, so it might be a little shaky, I'm not sure. But I've got the screws put in the doors. I've got the doors locked open to where I want. So I'm just going to go over the jambs now with the blowgun. You literally want to blow in every little nook and cranny until you can't see any dust coming off of it anywhere. And then blow on it for another 5 or 10 minutes past that point even. Because I tell you, if you don't do that, you're going to end up with dust nibs all over your paint job, and it's going to be a lot more work to try and remove them. You can see, even though I've wiped this latch out about 3-4 times already, there's still some oil weeping out of it, and that's why it really is best to gut your door and take it off the car. I do advocate that approach, and yet because of my size restraints of the area I'm working in here, I've chosen to do it the hard way, basically. Now these, I tried really hard to get these out, and they weren't coming out without breaking. Those seemed to hold the impact beam, and I was torquing on it really hard, and it felt like it was going to twist off. So I don't know if it's crimped in or what. There's not really made to come out from what I can tell. I don't know if you guys can see that, but as I'm doing the final blow off here, there's a little bit of paint flaking. This door's been replaced before with a used one that was originally painted silver, and you can see somebody didn't prep good enough in these hard to prep areas, and that's why I always like to go over it with like more than one stage. I did first the 320 stage, then I did 600, and then I did the gray Scotch pad. And yeah, even me, I still have a few areas that look shiny, although I assure you they have been hit with the gray Scotch pad. So I'll probably be going back over these areas with the gray Scotch pad again to make sure that that now exposed silver paint does get prepped up proper too. Even the areas that I'm not going to be painting right now, I'm still going over them. I want to get all the dust out of the environment. And keeping the car as clean as possible at every stage is that's the key behind getting a nice clean paint job in the end. So one other thing I really like to do before I start masking up a car is get rid of all the dust on the areas where I'm going to be sticking my masking tape. And what I use as a preliminary step is wet wipes for that. It works really good to get any mud or anything like that from out of there. So like the back of this, I'll be back masking this lip here. And so you want to go along there and just scrub the back side really good. You can see it's not too dirty because I've I've already gone over this before when I primed the car, of course, but just while I was sanding all the primer and everything, the dust gets in there. So I'll be going all around the car anywhere where I'll be putting masking and pre-wiping it with that, and then some of those areas will get gone over once again with wax and grease remover when I get to there. Another thing you can do with these wet wipes is just wipe off, like see I'm just wiping off the brake drum there because it's got a layer of dust on it that didn't come off with the air gun. And things like that you can pretty much go over whatever. I find wet wipes really handy. These are the Huggies, no, these are the Pampers brand ones I find work well. The Huggies brand ones are too linty, and the Kirkland ones from Costco work pretty good as well, I find. This video has been unofficially sponsored by Pampers Baby Wipes. I just got done with the wet wipes. I just wanted to show you how many are on the floor, give you an idea of how long I just spent on that step. And I cleaned up all my air lines at the same time. You can see they look a lot brighter because things like that really track dust around, especially the one I spray with, which is an independent line. I have this line set up, goes back to the regulator, and it's got its own water separator here. That's specifically for painting. I don't use that line for anything else. It's actually got a high flow coupler on it as well for my spray gun. And then I have this other line, is the shop line, and it just goes through this little water separator, which actually works really good. I never get any water in either line. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why you would use a separate line for painting besides the high flow coupler that I use on there, and of course the dirt that you're tracking. There's also the chance of getting the inside of the line breaking down, especially if you run over it a lot with cars and stuff and pinch it and kink it. That rubber can start to degrade in there and it can flake and create dust. It will go into your paint. But I'm also going to be cleaning out the air filter on my air compressor before I get started with the spraying here. That's another thing that could leach dirt into your paint. So I went all in all these holes here with wet wipes, everything like that. And now I'm going to go over and blow everything off once more. And then I'm going to pop the doors open, start wiping everything down with a solvent, with wax and grease remover. And then I will start to mask. I'm going to be wiping down the jams. I'm going to be using this DuPont Clean Sol. So I'm just going to go ahead and blow off the container so that I'm not getting any contaminants into my sprayer when I fill it. I'm just going to use blue shop towels for right now because I will be going over this all again. I do have specialty cloths that are completely lint free, but they're very expensive, so I use them after the masking just to do a final wipe, and I'll do my tack rag anyways. Just make sure that the surface is all free of wax and grease before we start masking, because you can't go too heavy with the stuff once you have masking on there, because it will melt the adhesive on the tape and then your masking will loosen up. But I do try to kind of go over some of the bigger areas to take any contaminants off that may have got on during the masking. We'll see, maybe because it's jams I might not bother. Anyways, I just use one of these little pump sprayers because they seem to work. I do have one of the big pump up ones, but I mean really it's not rocket science. You just got to get some product onto a towel and then you wipe it on wet, and then you do a section, and then you want to come back over it dry with the second towel ideally. It's a little simpler and easier on the outside of the vehicle where it's just big wide open panels to wipe. That's the problem painting jams on a vehicle. It it takes such a long time. That's why it's really costly to do a complete color change, or time consuming in my case, not costly, but things like this really benefit when you go to mask that. Now the tape's going to stick so much better after you just quickly wipe the rubber with the solvent. Kind of makes it a little sticky. And you can just fold your rag different ways until it's all soiled. You'll notice that like I'm wiping on the outside, the panel there and stuff. I'm wiping past where I need to mask, and that way I'm sure the masking will stick good that way. There'll be no contaminants in the area where I'm trying to put my masking. So we're going to go ahead and use our drying rag as our wet rag, and then we'll get a new dry rag. As I said, it's a bit easier process on the outer body because it's a lot quicker to do your wiping and you're going back over it. Right here you can see it's almost drying up by the time I get back over it. And that is the idea with the wax and grease remover, is it's a very fast evaporating, highly volatile they call it. So this is pretty well going to be the same process all through here, so I'm not going to just sit here and film me wiping all the jams. I think you get the idea. I should point out that I did wipe these jams down actually twice already. I've wiped all of them. Part of that is because this car actually belonged to an older guy that did detailing out of his garage. He waxed all the door jams and everything on this car at one point. You could still see it in around the hinges and stuff, so I had to get rid of all that wax before I could start sanding the jams or anything. And you know, when you've got that much contaminants on a surface, you want to go over it twice just to make sure. So that's what I went ahead and did there. I'll be spraying under this edge here too, so that when I you know, come and paint the outside of the body, I'm not having to go up under here, and that way I can really focus on this outer part and getting the texture in my paint perfect, not getting any runs. And I won't be spraying under here and possibly, you know, catching some loose dust from a crevice somewhere and blowing it up into the paint. If I can mask off just behind this edge when I do the outer body, that's going to be a huge benefit to the quality of the paint job on the exterior of the vehicle here. I'm just finishing up the wipe right now. It's kind of tedious, time-consuming work. So a lot of it's cleaning that equals a good paint job. A lot of people think you need a paint booth, like a proper paint booth, to get a good paint job, and I'm here to tell you that's not true. I've painted cars in a gravel driveway and got a decent job. It's all about paying attention to details and being fussy. For example, when I was working in that gravel driveway, I wet down the gravel before I started spraying. Things like that. You just have to work with your environment. This isn't a real paint booth by any means, but what I have is I have a fan and a filter that goes there, and that blows positive air pressure into the room, and then it all blows out this way because I open this big door here, and then I have fans set up on each side outside plus up on the roof, and they carry all of the spray and stuff out to the outside. Like I leave the big doors of my shop open as well, so it can all just filter out there, and that actually works really good. And then another thing is, don't try and spray a whole car at once. If you just do, you know, small sections, like I'm gonna do the front end completely separate, the bumpers separate, all that stuff is going to be done separate from the main body of the car. I hope you found the video helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more, and have yourself a great day.